Today, I thought we'd go down the rabbit hole a little bit. This could be a whole series, actually. Go down the rabbit hole of IBS, right? I had it for about 3 years, right? Ups and downs, all kinds of forms of it, diarrhea version, constipation version, and the one that's mixed up with both of them. It was just whatever it wanted to be. It was just kind of acted out, and that's what I dealt with. So I also dealt with all the gut issues and heavy duty food sensitivities. Duty, right? So for me, I for a while could only eat two safe foods because all the rest of the foods that aside from beef and rice, and within a couple of weeks actually, apples, I was able to eat apples all of a sudden. Um, if I ate outside of that, I would have severe gut reactions. Right, I would be in the toilet for weeks at a time. At times, I would have bloody diarrhea or just blood in the stool. In the beginning, it was just a lot of diarrhea, and it was a lot of stress on my bowel, just constantly, right, emptying my bowel constantly because that's what it was. That's what was happening. My brain was going, we're letting everything out, but we're not letting anything in. So it was a mechanism, right, to get everything out because we were in a state of fight or flight. And when you're in a state of fight or flight, digestion goes out the window. I had ulcerative colitis, diverticulitis, right? All the dysbiosis, SIBO, this fucking you name it. I had all of that stuff, and the IBS was just a cherry on the cake. It was like the in between of everything. It was, I would say, the IBS was the main thing that was there constantly, right? So let me backtrack a little bit and talk about my perfect storm journey, right? So I dealt with this was 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago. I had diverticulitis and I had emergency surgery. And after that emergency surgery, I was healing, right? It was a traumatic surgery for me. I started to heal and everything's going back, the way it's supposed to, right? But it started taking longer to heal, and then I started getting symptoms, and then before you know it, boom, I was hit with 75 symptoms. All of a sudden, I'm reacting to all kinds of foods that I never reacted to before. I started having all kinds of weird symptoms: insomnia, crazy anxiety, impending doom feeling, blood pressure going up and down. What else? Uh, Gastritis, eye floaters, rashes, mast cell activation syndrome, multiple chemical sensitivity, right? Heart rate tachycardia. All of a sudden, my heart rate wouldn't come down. So it was constant anxiety with 75 plus symptoms. I had a perfect shitstorm that 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 I got hit with, and then I could only eat two and a half foods, right? And I didn't know what was going on with me. This was a nightmare. It was literally a shitstorm, and not just with the IBS. The IBS is right. It was just one of the 75 things that I was dealing with, right? And the thing is, I also started to have pelvic floor pain because it was so tight. I also had problems eventually, probably a year into this journey. All of a sudden, I can't even push my poop out because my pelvic floor was so tight. It was like a wall all of a sudden went up. And if I really tried really hard, right, I would have a long piece of poop that was very thin because it was going through like this, right? You just try to squeeze poop through there, it might open up a little bit, and then it's like Dairy Queen, like it's just that's it. Sorry, buddy, that's all we can do for today. That's as far as we can go. Sorry, you're gonna have to figure this out. I'm like, how the fuck am I gonna poop? Right? How am I gonna get this shit out of me? Right? I went to the hospital 3 times a week because I thought, well, there's something going on with me. Maybe they botched it. Maybe I don't know what's going. Why is everything breaking down? Why am I worse than I was before? maybe I have diverticulitis again. This is where my anxiety started to roll, health anxiety, right? I started to try to diagnose myself. I was freaking out, right? They took CT scans. They took CT scans of my gut and they said, "Yeah, yeah, there's nothing there diverticulitis wise, but you are backed up full of poop, right? You should probably think about using some sort of right, some sort of thing that'll get you to process and to empty your bowels." But the thing is, I was reacting to those things. I couldn't. I couldn't take magnesium. I couldn't take all the laxatives because I was reacting. So I had to do it with my finger. So I had coconut oil, finger caught, right? I had to put it up my bum, open up my butt, which was very weird and uncomfortable, and I noticed how tight I was, right? I could make I swear I could make diamonds. It was so bad. And then the poop would come out. And this was started to become my daily routine. At first it was really what the hell's going on with me? But then eventually I knew it was my tight pelvic floor. I got used to it and it was just part of my routine. The thing is, the IBS world, right? And I'll tell you what happened and why I had got the IBS and how I recovered. But when you're going through this journey near the beginning and you don't know about the mind body space, that's what I teach. And this is why you're here. It's about the mind body space and the different way of getting to full recovery, getting all the symptoms to turn off. The thing is, when you're going through this journey, you're surrounded with a lot of bullshit, a lot of nightmare stories, a lot of coping mechanisms, a lot of avoidance behaviors, a lot of labels, right? Smokes and mirror beliefs. Because if you Google it, if you were to Google IBS, if you were to go to YouTube land, if you were to go to Instagram land, right? 90% of the people that are dealing with this or people that are giving you advice about it, right, have it totally wrong. They're not talking about the root. 9 times out of 8, they're telling you how to avoid certain foods so you get relief. Most of them don't know what's going on. They usually blame it on something else and they don't know why that brought that. But it's none of that. It's all bullshit, right? They'll tell you, hey, listen, you got the IBS because you have SIBO, overgrowth of bacteria in your intestinal tract, which leaked into your bowels, and now it's out of balance. Your biome's out of balance, and right, so because it's out of balance, you have leaky gut. So right, there's inflammation. There's that word, inflammation. They use that for everything. So people are like, okay, the inflammation. There's leaky gut. There's holes in my gut, and it's leaking blood-brain barrier. Right. So then they link all your mental symptoms, all your other symptoms, your skin, brain fog, right? Whatever you're dealing with, they associate with your gut. They call it the second brain, right? So right away it's because, well, you have leaky gut that affects your brain. That's why you have brain fog, because of your gut, because of the SIBO. When you have SIBO, right, they start connecting the dots and making shit up. And when you watch this stuff, you believe it because it feels pretty credible. It makes okay because you also kind of want a label. We're kind of looking for a label because how many it gives us a little comfort. It gives you the safety that you're looking for when you're in a state of fight or flight. The complexity, the more complex it is, the more you find safety in it, and the more they tell you, you can't fully recover from IBS. We don't know where it's from. It could be from you ate something that was poisonous. It could be from your environment. We're not too sure, but you don't have to. This doesn't have to rule your life. There's medications out there. There's coping mechanisms that we can use to manage it so that you're at maybe 60%, and people buy it because it's believable. That feels like a real reality that we can. Okay, that gives me. I'm accepting my life with this IBS, right? The label. They take the label. Okay, I have the label. My biomes probably, my mitochondria probably affected my leaky gut, which it's like a domino effect, right? All my life, right? There's poisons in the air, poisons, right? You program your brain to think You're surrounded by ligers and tigers and bears, right? You buy into the brainwashing. But you know, a lot of these people, they actually believe this, what they teach. The functional medicine doctors, right? I'm not saying that they're bad, right? Most of them, they're really trying to help you. But unfortunately, a lot of the information is bullshit, right? And by the way, this is all entertainment, educational. I'm just talking about my experience, right? I am not a professional doctor, right? If you need to see a doctor or go to the hospital, please do so. This is just my opinion from my experience and what I've seen over the years of going down all the rabbit holes, right? I joined all the Facebook groups that are very, very toxic that make you believe that the mitochondria, you have a unique motherfucker gene. See, the motherfucker gene is causing imbalances, and there's unfortunately nothing you can do. You are damaged, you are broken, you are impaired, right? So, well, I can't even heal the gut. Well, what we can do is we can manage by healing the gut, and you should feel pretty much 50% better. We should maybe go get a couple foods in, but right then people, they give you the doom stories. They tell you things like, come to grips with this bullshit. You need to accept this. This is going to be the rest of your life, right? Unfortunately, there's no cure. You can see that shit everywhere. See that if you Google it, YouTube it, functional medicine, Ubit, right? What, right? The Facebook groups, a lot of the Facebook groups are with people that have dealt with whatever symptoms for so long. Say it's IBS. Let's say they've dealt it with it for 20 years. They never found the way, so they assume there is no way. And now that you joined this forum or Facebook group, they're going to influence you because it's not fair. How don't even talk about cures. Don't even give people false hope. Now that's they assign themselves as the guru senior person, the IBS senior person, right? They're miserable, right? And they don't want to. You can't even talk about anything else except for their narrative because they want to keep you sick. It's not fair, right? There's a lot of angry Karens. As soon as you talk about anything else, you are deleted or blocked right away, right? And it's unfortunate because there's 44,000 people maybe in an IBS group or a histamine intolerance group, right? People go there to get answers and to get help, and they go there to get fully recovered. But they take it upon themselves. They know the power that they have. They take it upon themselves to brainwash you and go, get used to it. Start to think a little bit. You should maybe consider going on disability. Maybe not for IBS, but for some of these other mast cell activation syndrome. Go in some of these groups. Some people will tell you things like, you should probably get ready to go on disability. I'm just helping you here. I don't want you to look for any false hope because I've been dealing with this for 30 years, sir. So, yeah, yes, I tried this. Unfortunately, that's not right. So, you get brainwashed with these smokes and mirrors constantly, right? And you grab onto them, and they become your reality. It's literally how it works, right? It sounds convincing. SIBO, leaky gut. Oh, intestinal overgrowth. Oh, you do a test. There's tests for that, right? And the thing is, if you do tests and you look down, you zoom in, right? When you're in a state of fight or flight and you zoom in, you're gonna find shit that looks wrong, broken, bad, unbalanced. That's supposed to be like that, right? If you're a person that's regulated, when you fully recover and you do those tests again, everything will look balanced, right? It's not even a thing. That's why it's irrelevant. But when people start doing these tests, these biome tests, right away they get sucked into this reality and the beliefs, right? The beliefs run their life. It's a new programming. They're deciding to use a software that keeps them sick, right? Or dealing with these challenging symptoms. So I'll tell kind of what I did with my story, and then we're going to go and check out some of these things that you see on YouTube, right? Or on Instagram, or on Facebook. Unfortunately, I can't join most of these Facebook groups because I've been blocked and banned. So, too bad. Shit. But there's lots of information that we can view on Instagram. This might have to be a bit of an IBS series where I go into the trenches. I talk about the symptoms, what I did to recover, and then we'll look at the people that are sucked into the beliefs, right, in the internet, just like I was, and we could kind of review. Maybe this is what you're going through. Maybe this is what you saw also, right? And this is where you can chime in the comments, and we can talk about it, right? Because it brings awareness, and that's the goal. So I'll be sending, I'll be adding in footage from YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, and we'll see what people are saying, even Google. So for me, what I had to do, this is the thing is IBS was, one of the most annoying things I had to deal with. It was depressing, but I was also dealing with 74 other symptoms. I was probably dealing with over 100, but I only knew the names too. Well, maybe only 40 of them, right? So for me, I had to buckle down, right? And just start doing the work. The thing is, I didn't know anything about the work. I didn't know anything about the mind body space, right? Using elements of brain retraining. First, I did that. And then eventually, I had to add in other things like allowing. And then I figured out the allow method and I started doing that. And then I fully recovered. So there's elements of a bunch of things that are put together, mostly through trial and error, right? I did have some help from people that recovered. And they said, hey, try this. I know you're stuck. I was stuck too. I did the same thing. Try going this way and look into ERP therapy, look into, right? So I had to become my own guinea pig, right? I was pointed in the right direction, but it was up to me to take action and figure it out. Make the mistakes. I had to make all the mistakes, fuck it all up. But that's where the gravy was. That's where I learned, right? How to adjust, how to pivot, and it brought me clarity, right? It was a bit of an awakening, and I got more in tune with my higher self. Here's some of that woo-woo stuff, right? I got in tune with my higher self, and I got to see how the nervous system really works by being sucked into it minute by minute, day in, day out, month by month, year by year. This took me 3 years to fully recover from all my gut issues and all my symptoms. I had over 75 plus. This journey with mind body, doing the mind body work took me 3 years. So let me kind of try to paint a picture of why we get sick, right? And I'll tell you, it's not as complicated as it might seem. But the work, it's also not as complicated, but it's just hard, right? And I'll tell you how I got the IBS, how I got all the other symptoms, and how most of you are dealing with the same thing. And if you were to look back into your life, you'll be able to see the patterns. So let's look into it. So what happens is in life, right? The reason why you have the IBS is because your allostatic loads are full. Your stress bucket is full, right? And your survival state is not at 0 anymore. Now it's hardwired to 1,000. Now you're in the red zone. What happens is when you're in the red zone, your allostatic load is full, right? And this thing's overflowing. You're having a meltdown. Mayday, mayday, we're having a meltdown. Symptoms manifest. And these symptoms are just alarms trying to get your attention, right? Trying to get your attention to the real danger, and that we got to empty the allostatic load. right? Throughout life, right? Life threw you curveballs. We're supposed to be here at zero. Normally, what happens is when you're faced with a tiger or a lion in life, right? You go from 0 to 1,000. You get into your brain is there to protect you, right? You get into a state of fight or flight. It's a mechanism to keep you alive, right? Let's say you kill that bear or you run away from that bear. Now you're safe, right? The threat is gone. You go from 1,000 back down to zero, right? But that takes like 1 hour, 40 minutes, maybe 2 hours, right? You're back down to zero. But the problem is when life keeps throwing you curveballs, right? It starts to climb up into this new programmed state. So maybe you were in a toxic relationship, or maybe you were, a heavy drinker, or you were dealing with some heartaches growing up, childhood trauma. Let's go over that list right now, right? Let's go over some of the examples of what brought this survival state up. When this goes up, the survival state, eventually it stays there and it gets hardwired. So it's your constant state, right? So you're literally in an alarm state. So things that could happen. So here's the things that put you in that state. Now, I want you to review with me your life and let me know if you dealt with some of these things. And most of us have. But some of us, right, we weren't able to process our allostatic load, right? So something had to give, body keeps a score. The alarm started screaming. The alarms are IBS, right? So some of the things that we were dealing with, right, are trauma, childhood trauma, abuse, divorced parents, toxic family life, school bullying, family passing, a pet passing, right? Anything that affects you mentally or physically that you haven't had a chance to deal with or process, it gets put on a shelf, right? It gets put in the shadow and it fills up your allostatic load, your stress bucket, right? And when that's full, right, the brain, all it cares about is to keep you alive. It doesn't care about if you suffer, if you have symptoms, right? It's doing 1,000 different things, right, at the same time, but it's overwhelmed. It's buffering, right? The system's storage is full. It's going, right? So the digestion, your digestion takes a hit. It's not going to work efficiently. All the systems in your body aren't working efficiently anymore because it's not supposed to. It's supposed to be focused on keeping you alive from this tiger or this danger or this other tribe that's trying to kill your tribe, right? It's got focus, laser light focus, and boom, we got to keep them alive. We got to kill those people. We got to do what we got to do. It doesn't give a shit about digesting that burrito or your biome or healing that cut. Priorities, right? Because the way it sees it is if it doesn't keep you alive, you'll never have a chance to not digest a burrito ever again in your life. So when anything's in the survival state, the systems in the body, in your brain, will not work with ease. It'll be in dis-ease, right? When it's in dis-ease, don't expect anything to work perfectly, and it's not supposed to. What other things have you been dealing with? School bullying, right? I said pet passing, that's hard. Maybe you started taking drugs to cope with some of these things, right? Smoking. Oh man, I was a smoker for 15 years while drinking heavily for 10 and never missed a day. I was a bench drinker. That puts a lot of stress on the body. Toxic relationship. How many toxic relationships have you guys been in? Think about it. How many of them were narcissists? And I'm not saying that everybody's a narcissist. Maybe you were just in a relationship where you guys grew apart, but it got toxic. Maybe the person's not a bad person. You're not a bad person, but shit just hit the fan. But then you started to be with a narcissist. Maybe you got married to a narcissist, and then fan hit the shit, right? This is where they really put you survived through that. You felt this big, right? You were constantly angry, insecure, right? They became the liger or the bear in your life. For how many years? That brings a survival state up. That fills your allostatic loads one drop at a time. It probably takes about this much of your allostatic load. So, one drop at a time, all these things on this list start to fill up your stress bucket. What else is there? Right? So you got the toxic relationships, the medications, the antibiotics, right? The work stress, your boss is an ass, your coworkers are backstabbers, right? They throw you under the bus. It's like being in a prison, right? And the stress from work, just doing the work by itself is already stressful. And not getting paid enough. You got to work the weekends. Boss plays favorites, right? What else? Maybe you had to take the flu shot, COVID shot. Maybe you had Lyme and infections, pneumonia. Maybe you were around mold, supplements, right? The supplements maybe gave you more problems than they solved. Probiotics could do that. Diets. How many diets have you been on, right? That stresses out the body. How many surgeries did you need throughout your life? I had two. I think two, maybe three. I think I had two. How was your mental diet? That puts you in a survival state. Politics, the news. Are you on the internet talking shit with people? Arguing all day. Are you fucking right? Oh my god, no, the carnivore diet. Oh my god, I'm so vegan. You guys are so right. There's always something to be on the internet to argue about. So, are you getting sucked into a negative mental diet? Are you in the Facebook groups, the toxic Facebook groups about the symptoms that you have? Being brainwashed, getting sucked into all the protocols of detoxing this, fixing that, the motherfucker gene this, you got a leaky gut that. We need activated charcoal diatomaceous earth, blood brain barrier, blood brain SIBO this fucking right? You get sucked into all of that and you have that fuels the fire. You're pouring gasoline on the fire. So all those things start to happen and guess what? What else is there? Right? Suppression of emotions throughout your life, right? You have these adaptive mechanisms that you created as a kid, right? Because you were trying to get love from your parents. Okay, they only love you if you're quiet, if you behave, if you don't act out. You can't get angry. You can't be your authentic self. So you're suppressing your true self, which makes sense. We try to adapt because we want life to be easy, but that's not the real you. So you start creating these little apps behind the scenes that are working all the time. You create this persona, right, where you wear a mask, you start people pleasing, right? That fills up the allostatic load. You start creating these little programs, these little apps that run behind the scenes that pull the energy from your battery and fill up your allostatic load over the years, right? And they affect you big time. It might not seem like it, but they do in the long run because you start people pleasing your friends, your coworkers, your boss, right? You start to attract the type of boyfriend or husband that you people please. So you keep using the same programs. You become a slave to your beliefs and your insecurities, right? That sucks a lot of energy from your main core battery and it also fills up your allostatic loads. And that is probably bigger than all the things that I mentioned before. Suppression, right? Not processing the energy that needs to be dissolved. Massive. That's probably because at the end of the day, all these things that I listed are all affected by your emotions, right? And then the brain sends alarms to get your attention to the root emotion, right? It's just bait. It's just bait because it wants you to process it and dissolve it, to dissolve your allostatic. So what we're going to be doing is drop by drop, we're going to be using the allow method. Drop by drop, process it, dissolve it, right? And every time you allow, you get activated because you open up that old program, right? The alarms are going to scream at you. You get activated. This is the working journey. This is what took me 3 years from here to here every day, was a shit show, but I needed it. This is where symptoms become an opportunity to update the system. And that's what I did. I did the work. I did the mind body work every day, did the pillars every day. And I didn't get relief right away. I didn't get relief the first year. I didn't get relief second year or the third year. I fully recovered right at the third year. I got relief in different ways. Symptoms would turn off, right? But other ones would replace it because I was not out of the woods yet. I still had more work to do. So what happens is when you start doing the work, you start turning off alarms. That's great. That's what we want to do. But the thing is, when you're still running a survival state of 1,000, right? Let's say you start doing the work maybe a year later, you're here. Okay. You start turning off a couple of symptoms here and there. Well, that's great. But we're not out of the woods yet. Wouldn't you say? That's probably, 700? So it still needs to throw alarms at you to get your attention to the survival state, alarm state, so that you can make those changes and process. So when that happens, you're not going to get relief right away. It starts turning off alarms. Symptoms start, you start turning off symptoms. That's great. Awesome. But you're not out of the woods yet. You're still running a survival state. So it used to use those symptoms to get your attention to the survival state and the allostatic loads, right? Now that those alarms that it used to get your attention are gone, how's it going to get your attention? It's running low on attention supply, alarm supply, right? So it has to find new ways to get your attention. So what does it do? It finds new symptoms. So you get new symptoms, right? All of a sudden you got post-traumatic stress, phobias, anxiety that's relentless. All of a sudden you got severe OCD looping thoughts, right? You might feel physically better, right? But all it did was change form into mental alarms, which is fine. It actually shows that you're doing the work. So this is what happens. It finds new ways to get your attention because you're not out of the woods yet. You got to keep going. You got to keep doing the work. Setbacks become opportunities, and you need them. Without them, you can't recover. So I look like Stevie Wonder when I say this, but you need the setbacks and the flares and the symptoms because they become opportunities to update the system. So you need more of them, right? You need to ask for more of those symptoms. More of the IBS, more of the gut pain, more of the stinky farts, more of the shoulder pain, more of the fill in the blanks. We need to build leverage slowly. You need to build that leverage of indifference because it's the indifference of allowing it to be there and showing it, you can be here, right? Not white knuckling, not surviving through when it happens, because when you white knuckle and survive through, you're reaffirming to the brain that, yes, we are in danger. When you try to get rid of the symptom, what are you doing? You're getting rid of what? We're getting rid of the liger. We're getting rid of the tiger. So keep that alarm on. It's the way you respond. Are you saying that with the way you're responding, are you saying we're in danger, so I'm sending you a message of danger? When we should be sending a message of safety while we're in the danger, right? That's how it updates. Sending the right messages of safety while being in the danger. It updates. So not white knuckling, not surviving, but asking for more, surrendering, allowing, building that leverage of indifference. When you allow, it's a form of exposure. Eventually the brain gets bored of it. So the brain goes, hey, you know what? I think he's safe. He's not freaking out. He's not telling me he's in danger. So when you're not ruminating, fixing, analyzing your symptoms, trying to get rid of them, trying to figure them out, right? When you don't get sucked into that what if loop anymore, then the brain turns these alarms off. And of course, it's hard to do, but this is what I teach. I teach you to become indifferent to your symptoms, to take away the fear. When you take away the fear, the system is able to calm down. Alarms get turned off one by one, meaning symptoms, right? And all the symptoms go as a consequence of rebooting the system and allowing it to calm down. It just happens as a consequence. It figures itself out. It heals itself, right? We bring our survival state down back to zero, back to standby, over time, of course, it takes time. Took me 3 years. And we empty the allostatic load to an area that's somewhat reasonably safe, where all the symptoms pretty much go away. So here, most of the symptoms would be gone. Symptom threshold, this is where they start to appear like crazy. And then you got 30, 40, 100, right? Make sense? So that's the work. And this is what I teach. And I have a course that I teach, right? It's in the trenches. Join the membership. If you need help, I do group coaching. There's a program that you take. There's work to do, right? The pillars, you do the pillars every day, never miss a day. Eventually, you bring that survival state down. You empty that allostatic load, drop by drop, right? Symptoms go away as a consequence. And then you start to realize, right? You get in tune with your higher self. And you start to see, shit, man, all the years of all the things that I did, all the labels and beliefs that I had is all bullshit. You get to see it, and then you get your life back. And there's your evidence. Right? So you can fully get your life back. You can fully be free of IBS and many other symptoms. So let's go and check out some of the things that you might find that I'm sure you're aware of.
Bowel syndrome, complete nonsense, by the way.
Okay, let's see what he's got to say.
Colitis, diverticulitis, all of these issues of the gut.
So what is it?
Let me explain to you what's going on here. The most important thing with the gut is not the contents of the gut. It is the speed.
The speed,
of the gut.
right? I heard that many times.
Overlooked thing in
So it's
all
the speed.
bariatric medicine. They're performing a job. It's graded by pH. So as you get towards the stomach, it is more acidic.
Oh,
as
here
you
we
get
go.
towards the rectum, it is more basic. What would happen in Henry Ford's factory if he walked in one day and doubled the speed of the conveyor belt? The whole line would break down.
But what makes it go fast?
Why? Because you're taking a guy's job here and handing it to this person, and you're taking this person's job and you're handing it to this person. This guy is not trained.
Okay.
30 years as a gastroenterologist, and people still don't believe that IBS
Oh,
is
the
a
vagus
symptom of
nerve.
vagus nerve
Some more.
dysfunction.
So what? You got to
Nausea,
activate
bloating,
it? Here we go.
abdominal pain.
The answer you're looking for is heal your gut.
Here we go. Heal the
your
gut.
gut.
Protocols.
Heal your gut. Heal your gut. I don't even work out that
I'm
hard.
sure there's a lot of avoidance behaviors and what else? Trying to heal the gut or protocols, right? So maybe we'll find some people that are doing the mind-body space stuff. So I know, well, right off the bat, she likes to fix.
So how do we heal from irritable bowel syndrome? Stop the foods that irritate the lining of the gut.
There you go.
What are the foods that do that? Caffeine,
So avoidance behaviors is pretty
refined
much
sugar,
the way she goes. So that's not the root. That's not what,
the hybridized wheat.
because once upon a time you were able to
Touched
have
on the
coffee.
hybridized wheat last night, and I'm going to explore it a
You
bit
were
more
able to have
tomorrow
wheat,
in
you were
the
able to have
Alkaline
sugar.
lecture. Dairy.
So what? You can't have it anymore?
For IBS, well, you would stop eating the plants that are punching you in the gut. You might want to take some antiparasitics if necessary.
There we go.
You probably should get a Viome test. Naveen Jain, the CEO,
Down the rabbit
is a
holes
good
we
friend,
go.
Partner with me in the Apollo Mastermind that I'm running, and I'm an advisor to the company for almost 10 years now. So
Yeah.
Viome will tell you what's going on
So,
in there.
yeah.
And then you can take something called BPC 157.
So yeah, more
which is a
supplements,
and
more
peptide is a
fixing. Good old medical medium. What has he's got to say?
A lot of people get diagnosed with IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. But what is that? It's inflammation. But
Okay.
inflammation unknown. What people don't realize is there's a real cause to IBS.
What is it?
And it's bad bacteria.
Okay.
Streptococcus is one of those bad bacteria right here. Sometimes E. coli. Mostly Streptococcus is the one that
Here
causes
we
that
go.
IBS. So what is that? What are the symptoms? Well, symptoms could be anything from constipation to having the runs to IBS is just one. But many people
But the thing is, how do we get those things in the first place? Why do they happen in the first place?
are eating
Doesn't really mention
because
that.
they're always like, what's
But I'm sure he's got the fix-it protocol.
So this protocol is broken down into 4 phases to make it really easy to follow. Phase 1 is to promote
Here
motility.
we go. Here are the
Phase
steps.
2 is to reduce the gas levels. Phase 3 is to
Gotta
reduce
fix.
inflammation in the gut. And Phase 4 is to finally kill
the bacteria. So
using
you gotta
novel
do
antimicrobials. So if you'd like to learn the full
supplements, kill
protocol in
protocols.
detail,
Bowel syndrome, how can you reverse that? How can you cure that? The vast majority of IBS,
Let me
Crohn's
see.
disease, and ulcerative
Keto?
colitis if you adopt a very low carbohydrate diet, a meat heavy keto or ketovore or definitely carnivore, your IBS is going to go away. Your ulcerative
Yeah, but that's another coping mechanism. What happens if you eat those things again? It comes back.
Where the immune system just, woke up one day, went haywire, and said, you know what, I'm gonna start attacking proteins in the luminal wall of the gut. Or are there bacteria that should stay inside of the gut that have leaked out of the gut into?
Here we go. It leaked.
Belong, and the immune system is doing its job, protecting the body.
Yeah. How did it leak
by
out?
going
It
after
just
those,
isn't.
bacteria
Leaky
or those
gut. I think he's talking about the leaky gut.
And
So there's 3 types of IBS. IBS-D is
Diarrhea, constipation, and a mixture, right? For me, that's like IBS is just a fancy word of saying you got a storm down there, anything goes. It's like, yeah, but I have diarrhea. Well, that's IBS. Yeah, but mine has constipation. Well, that's IBS. Yeah, but mine's a mixture. IBS, right? So it doesn't really matter. It's
diarrhea predominant
shit.
IBS, where a person may have urgency and frequent loose stools. But from my experience, patients are usually not satisfied with this approach. They don't want to be dependent on a medication that has potential side effects.
And I'm down with that. So I'm really curious to see. So she must be like a functional medicine doctor, because usually the regular doctors put you on antibiotics, or they try to help you feel more comfortable.
So let's go over what are the real root causes of IBS.
Oh, the root. Hey, let's find out. Root causes of IBS. It's all mind body, right?
One of the main root causes of IBS is small intestine bacterial overgrowth,
There we
also
go.
known as SIBO. In fact, SIBO is the root cause in up to 70% of IBS.
So, okay. So the root cause is SIBO. So now you're going down another rabbit hole. And it's 70%. Okay, well then why is SIBO there? Why are we, right? It's an overgrowth of bacteria. It's not in the right area. It's supposed to be in a certain area, and it kind of leaks into another area. So that right now,
IBS.
I'm
Normally, our small intestine does not have a lot of bacteria. Most of the bacteria are located in the colon, and the job of our small intestine is to absorb nutrients from our food. In SIBO, the bacteria in your colon back up into your small intestine.
Okay, so why does it back up into your small intestine? It just decides to, okay, well, we got bacteria. It crossed that line. Oh shit! So then it has an overgrowth, and then that's what they go for. So there are certain antibiotics that they take for this overgrowth, this SIBO overgrowth, where you take it and it only it's slow release, or is it quicker release? Because slow release is colon. So it must be a certain amount of timing that they have where it goes down and only hits the intestines, and it kills the overgrowth. So you kind of do like a reset. It's an antibiotic, right? And then they kind of cross their fingers and they're like, okay, let's hope that overgrowth is gone. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, it's not that thing. They're going down. They're literally zooming in going, well, that's the problem there. See, we see an overgrowth. The thing is, let's say there is an overgrowth, right? They're chasing symptoms, right? They're trying to eradicate the symptoms, but why don't you get to the root, which is the programming, right? Update that, and everything else will figure its way out without you micromanaging all these symptoms and systems. So then you're going to go down. Now you're doing SIBO. Oh, there's a protocol for SIBO, and you got to kill this and private parasites, and there's an overgrowth, and then there's, right? And that's exhausting. You got to go on all these medications. And here's the thing: when you see this kind of stuff, it's believable because complexity brings in the fear, but it also makes it believable. It creates this reality that's like, I can buy that, right? Complexity, I can buy because it means it must be real, it must be right. And if they're wearing a lab coat, is she wearing a lab coat? I think she is. Yeah, right? Hydrogen SIBO, here we go. Methane SIBO. Ooh, intestinal methogen overgrowth. And they got the tests to show you this shit too. Oh yeah, no, of course, there's both types, right? And I'm sure some of you have done the tests. See, but I did have SIBO. But I say SIBO, IBS, it doesn't really exist because it's, just put it this way, right? It's a fancy way of saying you got to storm down there, right? Because you're in a state of fight or flight. So they make up these labels. They have the tests to back up these labels. But in a way, if you zoom in, of course, things are going to look unbalanced, off, right? They're not going to look right. So then it's irrelevant. It really is. It becomes irrelevant when you know what the real issue is. All you got to do, right? All you got to do is update the system, regulate the nervous system, process the allostatic loads, right? And bring that survival state down. Okay, let's get back to this. Let's see what else they're saying. So they want you to kill the bacteria. How do you do that? With their certain kill protocols, right? This is what I had to deal with functional medicine doctors, naturopaths. They do the same thing with the candida, right? Same, starve the bacteria. Here we go. You got to starve it out. Oh man, this is so stressful on the system. And guess what? You have more SIBO near the end and promote motility. Right. So I'm not in line with this protocol. Let's look around. Let's see what else is there.
The most effective treatments for SIBO, or small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. The order here is crucially important.
See, small intestinal bacteria overgrowth already causes right there a rabbit hole, right? Because you have small intestinal, SIBO, all right, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. We can't have the overgrowth, so we got to find a way to stop it. We got to fix it.
I'll share published evidence with you showcasing that we can hit an 85%.
Here it is, right? It's not 100%. It's 85. That makes it more realistic, and that makes it more believable. And I'm sure they really believe this. I'm sure that they've done the tests. They do, they mean well. They're trying to help you. But the thing is, people buy into it because it's nonsense. All you got to do is bring that survival state down. It's 100%. You can eat all the foods and have the symptoms go away, right?
Resolution rate of SIBO if we use the right therapies in the right order. So super eager to share this with you because
thing is, people are trying to fix and cure IBS, but there's actually nothing to cure. So we got to get to the root, which is dissolving, right? Every drop that filled up the allostatic load, to pay attention to the shadow, dissolve all the emotional energy. That's it, right? Is that broken? No, it's actually working correctly. It's actually working perfectly. But they're making it seem like, well, there's something that we got to fix. There's a disease. In a way, it is a dis-ease, right? Because we're not in ease. But they're making it seem like, right, there's something you have to cure. The mechanism is broken, but it's actually not. It's doing what's exactly supposed to do. This is the routine that it needs to get you to acknowledge the alarm so you can process them. Studied, published, worked with, but have you been through it? And have you overcame fully without any avoidance behaviors? Right? That's what I want to know.
I can tell you that this is an area where we have science to give us the path to truly resolving SIBO. So a lot of hope, a lot of optimism. Small intestine and therefore leakage. This causes the immune system to react.
Where's the leakage? Why is there leakage? Right? People keep talking about there's leakage. Why is there a leakage?
Digestive symptoms, but also systemic symptoms like brain fog, fatigue, depression,
so they're saying that SIBO, your gut issues, are directly giving you, right? Of course, the gas bloating, abdominal pain, blah, 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 blah. But what about the brain fog? So because you have an issue with your gut, because they say the gut and the brain, the gut's a second brain, that it's from the gut, but it's not, right? Chronic pain, it's not from the gut. Joint pain, it's not from the gut. Skin issues, not from the gut. Fatty liver, not from the gut. Metabolic impairment, it's not from the gut, right? All these things, put the gut in there. Put the gut in that list, right? these things are the symptoms that are affected. Your gut is going to be affected because you're running a survival state. That's it. For no other reason. But then people go down these rabbit holes thinking that, well, my gut's giving me the brain fog. Well, my gut's giving me the pain that's here. When it's not. Your brain's sending you that pain to get your attention, right? To process your allostatic load and bring your survival state down. That's it, right? It's not because of this. And by the way, I'm not a doctor. I'm just talking about my experience and what I've seen because I've been down all these rabbit holes in the past many times and they didn't do shit. They didn't help me at all. So I'm just talking from my experience and how I fully recovered, right? I can eat all the foods with ease.
Having SIBO sucks. And in this short video, I'm going to tell you how to completely eradicate your SIBO symptoms. I'm Dr. Ken Berry, a family.
The carnivore diet or the keto diet. He's really into the keto. And you know what? Sure, if you do the keto diet, your symptoms might go away. And it might be true, right? You go low carb, the symptoms go away. But the thing is, if you get off the keto diet, the symptoms come back. So that's not the root issue. That's not the cure. There's nothing to cure.
Physician, let's talk about this because it's important. So if you're having abdominal pain, bloating, uncomfortable fullness after you eat, diarrhea, or any of the symptoms of small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. That's called the ileocecal valve. This is to keep poop out of your small intestine.
So they got, see what I mean? Right? This guy's a doctor, right? You get this picture. You're going to buy into this. You're going to go, oh, the appendix. Okay, so the poop, it's okay. So it leaked. There was a leakage of bacteria. Bacteria spreads. It got into, right, an area that wasn't. There's the overgrowth. This is why I bought this shit, and it's nonsense. My opinion, right? Nonsense. So what does he say? He'll probably say that we got to kill that bacteria. I mean, the way you do that is not by feeding it with the sugars and the carbohydrates that you eat.
Here's all you gotta do.
What?
If you do this faithfully and strictly, your SIBO symptoms can be gone within 2 weeks. In some cases, 4 or 6 weeks, but for the vast majority of people, within 2 weeks, your symptoms will be completely gone. So what do? You go carnivore. You eat a diet consisting of just animal products. What this is going to do is eliminate all sugars from your diet.
Didn't I tell you?
Because even any carbohydrate breaks down into sugar, right?
There you go.
The starches, the soluble fibers, all these things break down ultimately into sugar, which feeds these bacteria.
Feeds the bacteria overgrowth. Here we go. Here comes the cycle.
In your ileum and leads to the symptoms you're suffering from.
Right here.
Today I'm going to share my experience doing a course of rifaximin with neomycin for SIBO, so stay tuned.
A lot of nightmare stories about that. Because you're literally dropping a bomb. Yeah. Okay, yeah. This is good.
And at the time I did some herbal treatments and my symptoms did improve a little bit, and that was kind of where I left it. But not too long after, I had a relapse and my symptoms kept getting worse, and then all kinds of new symptoms started happening. So just about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, I started working with a naturopath, and she wanted to treat me for SIBO. She's like, you probably still have it. And I tried some of the herbal options and found that I didn't tolerate them anymore.
You didn't tolerate them because that's what happens, right? And then you get sensitivities, right? It says that everything's got to go out. We're not letting anything in. And so you're going to be sensitive to the supplements, the herbs, and especially the antibiotics. So let's see. This sounds like it's a success story.
And so fast forward to just a couple of months ago, we decided to run another SIBO test and just to double check and see if that's what was really going on. And my methane levels on my SIBO test were really extremely high. And so we decided we were going to do a standard treatment protocol, the rifaximin plus the neomycin. And I was asked to take the rifaximin 3 times a day and the neomycin twice a day. And I started this protocol on February 13th. Now,
Now, I have heard some people get relief from it, but eventually it doesn't last long, right? Eventually that programming comes back. But most of the stories I've heard are people that it literally is a bomb dropping in their gut.
I wanted to report that yesterday I had this really intense period of negative emotions.
Ugh.
Kind
Alarms
of
are
what I've been
screaming.
noticing is I'm sort of having what I call my greatest hits of symptoms.
Yeah, you're stressing out the
I
system.
have had a major histamine flare over the last several days, but that cleared up with my poison oak. And then now I've got this anxiety, high emotional.
See what I mean? You stress the body out, you activate it, it's going mayday, mayday. What are you doing? You're supposed to, we're sending you alarms to change the allostatic loads. And what are you doing? You're going to do you're going to stress us out more. You're giving me more shit to do. Fuck. Okay, so I'm going to send you more alarms. There goes the anxiety. There goes everything else.
State that sometimes happens when I have symptom flare. So I'm not sure if this is happening due to the treatment or if it's just, this is my normal monthly fluctuation of things that's causing these symptoms. So anyways, that's the latest.
Okay. I feel bad for people that have to go through this shit. And watch, probably say, "Oh, everything worked out good. It's good. You know, I'm pretty. Everything's not perfectly normal, but I can, you know, I'm back to life somewhat."
Things are vital to figuring out what is going on with you and how to heal. And the only way to do this is to do really targeted experiments like, okay, I'm going to do this medication protocol and see what happens. Or I'm going to change my diet and see what happens. I'm going to change this supplement or add this supplement, see what happens.
Right.
And then you need to just make note of those things and keep track of them over time.
But you know what? She's right in that way because I had to do all the wrong things. So in a way, I want her to do all the wrong things because give it a couple of years, she's going to see, you know what? I don't want to take that medication anymore. I gotta try this mind body shit. And then it'll click. It'll all click, right?
So I know that I have farther to go with this issue. My naturopath is recommending a second course of rifaximin. All along, she was suggesting I might need to do 2 or even 3 rounds of treatment. So I'm waiting for my next shipment.
And you know what? I'm going to do a series of IBS. I'm going to keep going down the rabbit holes, I'm sure. I think it's kind of fun. But I will also share people that are in line with what we did. And I'll see if I can find some success stories with the protocols that I think are a waste of time. Because I'm sure somehow, you know, people did them and it worked, but it wasn't that. It was probably for some reason they worked through their emotions, something, you know, they did something. I was doing yoga and I started feeling my emotions and I went on this protocol, right? And I healed my gut and it went away. So it was the protocol. Meanwhile, it was, you know, they were processing their emotions. They were emptying their allostatic loads without even knowing it, right? Maybe they went to Costa Rica, right? And they were at the beach running and doing the walks, and by chance they were doing meditations and visualizations by chance, but they're gonna say it's kind of that, but it was mostly the detox that saved my life, right? So let's see if we can get a personal story. I love personal stories, right? That's what I used to follow all the time. And I would check the comment section back when I was dealing with IBS and all the gut issues. And now it feels good to go back and be free of IBS. But then you kind of feel bad for all these people. So many people, probably millions of people that are dealing with IBS that are doing all the things. But like I said earlier, do all the things so you know what doesn't work. Do the avoidance behaviors, but eventually, hopefully, you know, we can bring more awareness to the mind-body space. So let's do see what she's saying.
IBS is definitely not a life sentence, and you can absolutely regain control of your bowel.
Nice.
If you've been tuning into my channel for a while, or you follow me on Facebook or Instagram, you'll know that I share lots of valuable information and resources on irritable bowel syndrome, but you might not know why. Well, with over 20 years experience in wellness coaching and clinical hypnotherapy, I can help many people with many different health problems, but I choose to work with those people who have irritable bowel syndrome.
Nice.
Because I've been there. I've been through the struggle, I've been through the pain, and I've been through the frustration firsthand.
Hypnotherapist.
When I was 15, I
Nice.
experienced my first IBS attack. Crippling pain, it would last for 24 hours, and
Okay.
off I went. Those peppermint capsules that I had been told to take barely
Oh,
did anything.
I tried the peppermint capsules. That stressed my body out even more. Now, hypnotherapy, I don't know much about how it works, but I can imagine that maybe it could be a good quick fix, right? Because if you're under hypnosis, you can get to the subconscious. You can, change some programmings here and there. But at the end of the day, if your allostatic load is still full, right? And the programming is still in survival, hypnotherapy can't just cancel that out. Right? It's one of those things where you got to go through the motions slowly to update the programming. So it takes time. We're biological, right? It takes time to process the allostatic load. You can't just find a way just to dump it. So I think hypnotherapy might have its place, but I don't think it's the root. I think it's another. I think it would be another band-aid solution because you have to go through it. You have to day by day do the work and have the system update itself. But I could be right. I could be wrong. Maybe.
You felt exactly this way too. And those symptoms didn't just affect me physically. They affected my sleep. They affected my social decision, marked a whole new beginning, a whole new chapter of my life. From then on, I read everything I could get my hands on in terms of.
Yep.
Now, if this was the best advice that I was going to get from the medical profession, I thought it's time to take control of things myself. And that is exactly what I did.
Nice.
So in addition to removing gluten from my diet, I also started to look at all of the food I was eating in a lot more.
She took gluten out of her diet. I can see that. In the beginning, you want to do whatever you need to do so you can cope. So you can kind of not drive yourself crazy, right? And I always say that. In the beginning, avoid. And that's what I did. I avoided food, 90% of foods for a year and a half. But then eventually you do want to train on the foods when you're at a place where you have enough capacity. And then your goal is to have all the foods back without any avoidance behaviors or coping mechanisms. So it's a short-term thing. Let's see what else she did.
Detail. I started to look at how I was handling my stress, in particular emotional stress,
Nice.
and also all the lifestyle choices I was making. I went through months and months of trial and error, confusion and frustration. And I remember looking back at my first gluten-free creation, and I have to laugh because, to be honest, it was a complete and utter disaster. But I kept on experimenting and I kept putting everything that I had learned into practice, including how I dealt with, as I mentioned, emotional stress, which would.
This is where I think it's very important to do all the wrong things like I did, right? You become your own experiment. You become your own guinea pig. And that's what happened to me. I experimented. It did all. That's why it took. Aside from the 3 years before that, I had gut issues. Probably, let's add in another 8 years of trying to figure out my gut issues, and I was going to do fecal transplants, and I tried everything that everybody else has been trying with the diets and elimination, and right. So it's not really that it took me 3 years to recover. Technically, it took me 20 years because I had to do all these other things. But what worked was 3 years. But in a way, the only way that would work is for me to do all the other stuff. So 23 years. That's how I got here. I'm able to eat all the foods and I fully recovered. So I think she's getting it. I think she's getting it. It's the stress, the emotional part.
Would in the past nearly always send my stomach into severe spasm.
Right.
And slowly but surely, my brain fog started to lift. My energy levels started to return, and no longer would I just want to stay all day in bed and sleep. My bloating and the painful spasms became a thing of the past. No more mucus in my stool.
Yep.
My gut basically became calm, and my bowel movements became.
Mucus in the stool. Anybody raise your hand in the comments. if you had mucus in the stool. It looks like there's a fucking jellyfish in the toilet. Brutal and undigested food. Oh man, scary stuff. But that's when you're right when the system's so stressed out, it's pushing out fucking jellyfish. It's crazy.
Became pain-free and regular.
Nice.
But after regaining control of my gut, I still had so many questions. Why did this happen to me? Why not somebody else? Why not anybody else in my family? And how do I make sure that those IBS symptoms didn't come back?
That's the thing.
What could I do to keep myself feeling better and really take control of my health? Those questions led me to my training in clinical hypnotherapy and wellness coaching, becoming specialized in gut-directed hypnotherapy and cognitive behavioral therapy
There we go.
IBS.
Cognitive.
It was then that everything...
I'm not a fan of it, but I think she's getting really warm, and hey, maybe it works for her. Because with cognitive behavior therapy, it's usually you got to revisit and dig, and you got to talk about it, and that just puts gasoline on the fire. You don't need to do that. You can just integrate it. You can just allow it, right? Get right to the root, feel it, allow it, and process it, and dissolve that energy in time.
Suddenly made sense. And it not only gave me the answers that I had been looking for, but it also gave me a solid roadmap to help others regain control of their IBS symptoms too.
Nice.
So I want you to know that there is hope. And I hope that by sharing my story, you'll stop believing that there is nothing you can...
Well, so far, I think Jane, I resonate with her. I think it's been, what she's saying makes sense, right? Maybe not so much the hypnotherapy, but the emotional work that she had to do. I think that's what it is. Like I said earlier, sometimes people, they do this other thing and they think it's that thing they did to get rid of the IBS when it was actually, doing the dancing and the yoga and the meditation and just feeling their symptoms through somatic tracking or allowing.